Tell them that off the record someday.
No.
Oh, I won't.
10 years from now.
All right, good evening. I've got 7:02. I'll call to order this meeting of the Columbus Common Council for Thursday, November 8th, 2018. Kim, if you could please take a roll call for us.
Michael Clark.
Here.
Regan Hendrickson.
Here.
Cassia Millar. Trina Reed. Jason Thyland.
Here.
Andrew Traxler.
Here.
Michael Tome.
Here. Thank you. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting has been noticed appropriately according to state statutes and local ordinances. Next item is to approve the agenda. Unless there's any alteration or deletions, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Clark and a second by Traxler to approve the agenda. Any discussion on that? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda's approved. Next item is Correspondence and Communications. I had one person signed up this evening, Brenda Hobbs from 151 East School Street. If you'd please come forward to the podium.
So tonight I wanted to discuss the 2018 construction project. I am located on the corner lot, which some of you may know. So pretty much all summer I've had construction going on and gave me a little bit of a unique perspective, you could say. When I say I was surrounded by correct construction, I mean it. So from my perspective, I am disappointed in how the project was run. When the traffic sign was removed on the corner of Water and School Street, the sign was taken, but the hole was not filled in, leaving a hole in the ground that I had to buy dirt for to fill it in. When the utilities came to do their work, they left tire tracks backing quite a few feet up onto my property. It wasn't until I called to inquire if someone was going to fix the damage that someone came out a couple of weeks later. They didn't level out the tracks, but they did put down seed. I came home to someone lying down in my yard taking a nap. Yes, they were wearing a construction vest. Tubing and green pipes were left in my yard. To clarify, the piping is on my side between the sidewalk and the house. So in order to mow my lawn over the weekend, I would have to move the green piping onto the other side between the sidewalk and the street. I also recommend that you do let people know it would be closer to a month before they have access to their driveways. The time from tearing up, leveling, laying out the guides for the concrete, pouring concrete, and dry time is closer to a month. Also, when you say that people will have access to their home, I would recommend that the level guides that were up for a couple weeks that stand a couple feet high, that you leave a gap because either people have to step over or crawl under to have access to their homes, okay? And I feel that was an accident waiting to happen. My husband caught his foot when he was trying to go over carrying groceries. I'm also a little disappointed with how the project leadership and lack of responsibility and integrity of some of the people on this project have shown to me. During the final stages of the project, someone came up to my house and cut down the landscaping without permission or notification to us, the homeowner. I was a little surprised to come home and find front, side, and backyard, many things were cut down. I spoke with a representative from Forest Landscaping on a Monday about the damaged landscaping. He thought maybe someone had made a request and that they just went to the wrong house. He said he would look into it and would call me back, but he never did. Always contractors never returned my calls at all. By Friday, no one had called me back. I reached out to Patrick Vandersanden, and he sent out an email inquiry on my behalf to get an update. Within 10 minutes, I got a call from one of the project engineers that basically said no one is taking ownership of the removal of the landscaping, and if I wanted to file a police report, I could, but the tone was, I don't know what they can do about it. I returned his call that morning, and a woman answered the phone. I let her know that I was returning the call that I received that morning, and she inquired if it was about the rose bushes. I said yes, and she laughed. I asked her if she thought it was funny, and she laughed louder. When my husband called to inquire about what had happened, he was told by one of the project engineer representatives that it was always contractors out there doing work that week. I spoke with Chris at Always Contractors that Friday. He stated he knew nothing of the removed landscaping. I informed Chris that I called at the beginning of the week personally and left a message, and no one had called me back. I informed him of the damaged landscaping. Chris was very specific on the phone with me, wanting to know which house on the corner of Water and School Street I was, because there are 2 of us. He said it wasn't anyone on his crew, but I was told it was his team that was out there doing work that week. He was adamant that it wasn't his crew, but here are the questions that I have. What did it matter which house I was if no one was out there and they didn't do it? Why, if you know absolutely nothing about it, don't you offer to ask your crew who was out there to see if they saw someone who did do it? But nope, all I got was it wasn't him or his crew. I did speak to Patrick after these calls. He told me that there would be a meeting the following Thursday and he would ask on my behalf. And the finding is no one did it. Clearly Columbus has a gardening bandit out there that's destroying landscaping all on their own. What I wanted was simple, an apology. After all, I'm potentially a paying customer. $6,291 when this is all done. Someone made a mistake. I wanted the rose bushes that to be replaced that weren't coming back, and any replacement of other plants that aren't going to grow back in the spring, because I don't know if some of them will come back or not. Clearly, that's probably not going to happen, so you may want to rethink who you hire for your next project. You should warn people that you represent that at the start of any project, they need to take pictures of their homes before, during, and after. Notify someone immediately when something goes wrong, because waiting for someone to do what's right is probably not going to happen. And fill out a police report if any damage is done to their property. And it doesn't matter what assurances you may have, but in the end, it really doesn't matter. Because if it was the subcontractor, the contractor, or the project engineers, you voted to do this project, you chose who you hired. You were responsible for what they chose to do or not to do or how they acted. I'm not looking for an apology anymore. I frankly, honestly, probably wouldn't believe it. They had weeks to apologize. Honestly, I feel you should fix it. They were hired by the city. Just because they won't take accountability for their actions doesn't matter. They were hired by the city. If this happened to your home, how would you feel? And how would you expect to be treated? Being a corner lot, I got hit kind of double, more ways than one. I guess at the beginning of this project, one of the questions that were posed was that the corner lots may get a reduction because they're getting hit twice. I don't know if that's going to happen tonight. I still hope it will. Yes, we get a little bit longer to pay the bill because it's a little bit higher, but $6,291 is a lot of money for any family to pay. And to be honest, I feel like I got flipped the finger on this project and you stuck me with the dinner bill. And I do have some photos for you if you'd like to see them.
Thank you.
Thank you for tonight and have a good night.
You want these back?
No.
Okay, thank you. We'll get those afterwards. All right, was there anyone else present that wanted to speak under citizen comment that didn't get a chance to sign up? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda, we have 4 items tonight. We have the regular meeting minutes from October 16th and the calm meeting minutes from October 16th. Also a picnic license from Blue Jean Nation for Fireman's Park Pavilion on November 29th, and a picnic license for the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce for the Stop Shop and Sip Wine Walk, which is November 24th. From 12 to 5, we had an amended picnic license at our desks to include 2 additional places. Are there any questions on any of those items? If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion from the council to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion on that? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. On to new business number 1 then. Consider and take action on the bids for sanitary sewer collection system improvements. Went through the last committee of the whole. I believe the recommendation was for Visu Sewer Incorporated in the amount of $68,215.90. Any questions on that? Jason's here to answer them. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion from the council.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the bid for Vizu Sewer Inc. for the amount of $68,215.90.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to award the bid for the sanitary sewer collection system improvements to Vizu Sewer Incorporated for the amount noted. Any discussion on that? If none, could we please take a roll call, Kim?
Sure. Hendrickson,
Aye.
Tylen,
Aye.
Traxler,
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you, Kim. Number 2 and number 3, I'm going to turn over to Andy Traxler. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Mayor Tom. Next up, number 2, we have consider and take action on the 2018 final assessment for the 2018 street improvements. Again, this was also discussed at our last committee of the whole meeting. Didn't have a lot of questions until we just had that person come up and speak. So I don't know if this, Jason, if you could answer, if you have any comment on that, I would like to know if you had any discussion with Brenda Hobbs, or have any information that you can maybe key us into. That'd be helpful.
Pertaining to her specific concerns about the landscaping,
Yeah.
particularly. She covered a lot of things there, so I'm not quite sure,
Right.
what you want to know a little bit more about. But regarding the landscaping, I don't know if you guys are all aware of this, but during the final landscaping of the project, our landscaper came in. That was the subconsultant that she was talking about, Always Landscaping for forest construction. They came in and did all the landscaping, and basically they did more than they should have behind the sidewalk or outside of the right of way on some of the properties that had the sewer laterals replaced. And they weren't told, or they weren't notified by the general contractor that it wasn't their responsibility. It was actually the plumbers who did the work. But they came in and they restored all those properties where the earth had been dug up and the sewer laterals had been replaced. So they had done some work behind the sidewalk on some private properties. It should have been done by another landscaper hired by the plumbers. Now, that did not affect Brenda because she did not have any utility work done outside of her property. What was done was there was a 1 foot behind the back of the sidewalk on both sides of her property frontage that were restored by the contractor, and you can tell because of the mulch they were using was consistent throughout the project, and that's what was left. I believe they wrapped up, I believe it was on a Wednesday. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I do have a timeline because I was out there and they had a little work to finish up. We got the notification from Brenda, I think it was on Thursday or Friday, that somebody had cut all the bushes around her house. She was pretty upset about it. The call came in, I think, to Patrick. Patrick forwarded it down to me. She had already made contact with, somehow, and I'm not quite sure, but she had reached out to Forest and talked to them. She had also reached out to their subcontractor, which is usually not the protocol. Usually we like to kind of work through us as the city. So she had already kind of confronted, and there was some confusion by the contractor because they didn't understand what she was talking about. After she explained that they had come on her property and cut her bushes when they were gone, I had gotten involved and started making some calls when I found out about it. And essentially what it amounted to is we have no indication, nobody's aware of any situations that occurred where our contractor was doing any work on her property other than what was immediately restored behind the back of the sidewalk. She's been fairly adamant that it was, but after we did some investigation, we could not determine, anything that would have placed that contractor on her property. Her house sets back from the sidewalk a ways, so they would have had to make a deliberate, effort to go back and to trim bushes. This contractor was there landscaping, seeding, and mulching. They claimed they didn't have tools to trim bushes with. That contractor had also indicated that in that particular day, they did observe a truck with a brush chipper, a white a smaller white pickup like a landscape truck there. They didn't know who it was, but it wasn't theirs. So I don't know if that's obviously made up, but again, it's a lot of hearsay, what they're telling me. And so there was really no way to provide evidence that they would have done anything of the sort. They didn't approach anybody else's property or lawn. They didn't trim on anybody else. We didn't have any issues with the landscape or anywhere else on the project. It was this particular incident that was brought up. So we did do some investigation, but it kind of came to a roadblock or a dead end when we couldn't determine who did it. And without evidence, we really didn't know if it was the landscaper as part of this project. And they completely denied that they had any involvement in it. And so at that point, she was right. I think the question had come up that if, there was an issue that occurred, hence her bushes became trimmed, we weren't sure of what happened or who done it. And so there was some speculation that it could have been a misidentification or a property address that was wrong, and something could have been a different property intended, and that was, as a result of hers. The timing was coincident, I don't know. So at that point, we kind of left it back to Patrick as far as, okay, what's the procedure, or what is the city's position going forward? And I know Patrick was communicating with her at that point to have a single point of contact. We had obviously followed up on the engineering side. So outside of that, I don't know, we didn't take any action as she indicated, which we didn't, based off of the fact that we had no indication or evidence that it was what she had indicated it was. At first, I think, from my understanding, she was looking for some replacement or some compensation. Later, she had indicated she wanted an apology. But I think at this point, nobody understood an apology for what if we couldn't identify that it was actually done by the contractor. So, it was unfortunate. It was kind of a mystery. I still think it is kind of a mystery at this point, and that's kind of, I guess, where we left it. So, I certainly feel for her. I know, I don't know what her bushes looked like ahead of time. It appears like they had been trimmed. I don't know that it was that they were removed or damaged, but they look like they had been pruned. Again, I don't know. So unfortunately, our action was just, I guess at this point, we didn't know what to do.
Okay. Yeah, I can assure you this is the first time I've heard about this, and I'm imagining that's the same for Alderman Clark and Tylen and Hendrickson. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Patrick had the opportunity to share this information with Mayor Tolm or not, but yeah, there are other recourses for her if she truly, feels like she was done damage by the city. So I would recommend she take those actions if that's what she's looking to do, I guess. And then I'm just looking at the total final assessments per parcel. I'm seeing, it's just kind of weird because you have it split up. She has some assessment on the top section and an assessment on the bottom section. Is that just because of she has frontage on each street?
Yeah, there's two properties, and the way we set up the special assessment was there's a schedule for Water Street and a schedule for School Street. So again, if you look at it, there's two properties that are highlighted, particularly 351 South Water and 151 East School. Those are the two addresses that obviously have that double frontage situation that she referred to. So we did split up the assessments to have one unique to each roadway. As a result, she had indicated it was 6,000 something. I just ran the math. I didn't come up with quite as much as she did, so I'm not quite sure.
$5,042.89.
Yeah, that's what I had come up with as well. So
is that the amount, the 62? Is that what we probably did in the preliminary, or?
It very well could have been, and I didn't cross-reference it back to the preliminary, so that might be the number that she was referring to. But again, many of these assessments came in with, a slight change. Some were a little higher, some were a little lower.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions on the final assessment report for Jason? I mean, it appears to me that, if indeed that she was told 6,200, I mean, there was some concession made for having two frontages, so.
No, I don't think that was the situation, Andy. If she had the indication that it was more from the preliminary assessment, it was probably just less of a driveway apron or a reduced quantity that would have reduced the overall cost. You know, there are two properties here, and they both are assessed the double frontage. That methodology was used at the beginning when we discussed doing the preliminary assessment. It was also used in 2016 where the properties that had double frontages were assessed, and I think we have 4 properties in 2016. And so we carried that same methodology forward to be consistent throughout what we had previously done, which was the direction from the council. The benefit that gets applied to the corner properties in 2016 and in this particular assessment is there's a credit given on the storm sewer for the double frontages. And so there is a credit that's given, but it's not actually on the curb or the sidewalk component. It's actually on the storm sewer side. So that's where you would see it in here as well.
Okay.
And to be frankly honest with you, if I remember right, I want to say that there might not have been, right, so there wasn't a storm sewer that was assessed on School Street, so she was only assessed for one of the streets anyways. I mean, if there would have been a double assessment on the storm, we would have credited one of those back or 50% of it back based off of the methodology we used in 16. But this project, because there was only storm sewer on that was assessed on South Water and nothing on School Street, they really automatically got the credit even if we didn't apply that methodology.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Questions for Jason? All right. I'll be looking to entertain a motion to approve the 2018 final assessments for the 2018 street improvements.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All right. Kim, could you please take a roll call?
Tylen? Aye. Traxler?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Next up, we have number 3, consider and take action on resolution 21-18, a resolution authorizing public improvements and levying special assessments against the benefited properties. This is how we have the power to assess that, to bill for those assessments essentially. So unless there's any questions, looking for a motion to approve that resolution.
Motion to approve Resolution 2118.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, Kim, if you could take a roll call.
Traxler?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Hendrickson?
Aye.
Tylen? Aye. Unanimous.
Mayor Tome?
Thanks, Andy. All right, on to number 4 then, which is consider and take action on East James Street railing final plan. The only thing I see in our packet is 2 pages of pictures for the design. No cost. I think that we got some verbal estimates last time, and they may have changed a little bit, so I guess this is what we're approving. The final plan. Any questions?
How much is it gonna cost?
If I recall, it was about $6,800.
And then,
Yeah.
are we gonna get it done this year?
My understanding was that hopefully it's worked on already and that by the final approval, it'll be in shortly, we're hoping.
Okay.
That's my understanding anyway.
All right.
Any questions?
I just wanted to clarify, I think at one point during the discussion when the designer was here, we talked about the fact that the red bud tree on this depiction isn't quite what the final product will look like. I just want to state that I really hope that's the case, because I think we'd all like to see a red bud tree in bloom. So I'm a little worried about that in the final product, but I trust that it'll turn out okay.
I think Trina mentioned that as well, so. Any other questions, Andy?
It's more of a comment. I don't know if they're just showing this page because of the panels if we're just approving the panels, because we had discussed before the design, there's gonna be gaps in here for us to go, for pedestrians to get through, so I'm just a little, I don't know if I'm approving the railing and all of it's entails by this picture, or if I'm approving what we talked about and understood at the last meeting, so.
I think there was also discussion about, instead of having all three of these repeated, that they would have the separate designs on each piece, instead of having one of each of the three, if I remember that from a month ago. So. Well, I guess we'll see what we get. Any further questions? Anyone want to make a motion to approve the East James Street railing final plan?
I'm just not satisfied with what I'm seeing in front of me tonight. I mean, I want to approve, and I mean, I think I'm going to get what I'm going to get. I think I know what I'm going to get, but there's no description of the project. There's no drawings of what we talked about before. It's just something I could have put together on my computer in a few minutes. There's no price. I don't know there's no recommendation from staff. I'm not comfortable, but you guys can do what you want.
Put some contingencies in the motion if you'd like to.
I'd like to make a motion to approve contingent on more detail on the final plan, including cost, and more specifics about how it's going to be laid out on the railing in the final configuration.
How are you going to verify that, I guess? If we're going to approve it tonight with the contingency, do you want to do a cost not to exceed? I don't know if there's a contract between us and the manufacturer that's going to verify the redbud tree appearance. I don't know
We could make a motion, and I guess I will make a motion to accept it with the contingency of the cost not to exceed the $6,800, along with a guarantee that if it's not what the city had in mind, that it would be repaired or replaced at cost of the designer and contractor.
So we have two different motions on the floor right now.
I'll repeal my motion, original motion, and then second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to approve the railing final plan with the contingency that the cost do not exceed $6,800 and that there is some form of guarantee that the design is reflective of what we've discussed leading up to this point. Is that fair?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions on this? If none, could we please take a roll call, Kim?
Sure. Clark,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Tylen. Aye. Traxler,
Aye.
unanimous.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Traxler for number 5.
Thanks, Mayor Coleman.
That is the person sitting in the crowd.
Yeah, thank you. All right, number 5, consider and take action on agreement with John Salzwedel for clock tower maintenance. We talked about this a few times, most recently at the committee of the whole meeting. We're looking to enter into a contract with Mr. Salzwedel to be the one who is the caretaker of our wonderful clock. I just can't find it in my packet. Oh, there it is. Okay. So, you know, there's an amount per month, $200, and there's an $30 per hour for work done to complete services over and above regular inspections. I believe Attorney Johnson put this agreement together.
Sort of.
Sort of, okay. Attorney Johnson, have any issues with the agreement? Any concerns?
No. Patrick put the first draft together. I added a few things, and it suits the purposes that you're looking
All right. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Salzwedel or staff? Seeing none, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with John Salzwedel for clock tower maintenance.
Second.
All right, I got a motion and a second to approve the agreement with John Salzwedel for clock tower maintenance. Any further discussion? All right, Kim, if you could take a roll call, please.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Tylen,
Aye.
Traxler.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. All right, on to number 6 then. Consider and take action on Resolution 20-18, a resolution creating the Municipal Court Ad Hoc Committee. We have discussed this at multiple Committee of the Whole meetings about kind of having a transitional ad hoc court committee until 90 days after the municipal court is operated and functioning. Any questions on this? Clark?
Nope. Okay. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. If there are no questions, I'll entertain any action from the council.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 20-18, a resolution creating the Municipal Court Ad Hoc Committee.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 20-18. Any further discussion on that? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Number 7, consider and take action on Ordinance 743-18, an ordinance to create the municipal court for the city of Columbus. This has been through the Committee of the Whole for discussion as well. Attorney Johnson can answer any questions if you have them. And if there are no questions, I'll entertain any action from the council.
Motion to approve ordinance 743-18.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry, Andy.
Oh, it's okay. I just had a question about the it was the, oh, what's going on?
Nothing.
Oh, the compensation. This says that salary shall be paid quarterly. Have we determined that yet? Does that need to be in the ordinance, or is that just something we budget for?
Oh, all right. The actual salary itself is something that you will budget for, and that's one of the duties of the ad hoc committee, is to give you some examples as what other courts are paying their judge. So you don't have to worry about that for tonight.
Thank you.
And I just remembered I have to waive rules and spend.
Kim just pointed that out to me as well,
Suspend
that,
rules,
yeah, they have to go through your normal process for this.
Okay. Who made the motion? Clark? Will you withdraw your motion?
Withdraw my motion.
Okay. We need a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to suspend the rules. Any discussion on that? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Rules are suspended. Would also need a motion to waive reading.
Motion to waive a reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive the reading. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we can entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 743-18.
Motion to approve ordinance 743-18.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 743-18. Any discussion on that? If not, let's please take a roll call, Kim.
Traxler,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Tylen.
Aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Number 8, consider and take action on applications for operators licenses for July 1st through June 30th, 2020. We had 2 listed in the packet, and we have an additional for this evening. It would be Katie Weiss, V-Y-S-E, Nicole Louie, and Tatiana Bueller. Any questions on that? If none, I'll entertain a motion to approve those new operators licenses for July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2020.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and second to approve the operator's licenses as read. Any discussion on that? If none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Operator's licenses are approved. Next item is to take action on claims in the amount of $355,720.45. If there's any questions on the claims, Kim can probably answer those for you. If not, I'll entertain any action from the council.
I had a question for Kim.
Go ahead, Andy.
There was, for the clock tower maintenance, there was a couple of line items in there for the repair and, well, I guess I'm asking what those two line items were actually for, like, because I know the previous meeting we approved $650, I believe, for the gears for the clock, and this wasn't very clear what exactly.
It's my understanding it was for repairs, for repair work that was actually done on the clock.
There's two separate line items, is it?
Right, he came 2 separate times.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain any action.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims in the amount of $355,720.45.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the city claims in the amount read. Any discussion on that motion? If none, could we please take a roll call?
Clark,
Aye.
Hendrickson,
Aye.
Tylen,
Aye.
Traxler. Unanimous.
Thanks, Kim. Report of city officers, I only had a few things. Obviously, we had a election on Tuesday, if you hadn't heard. Turnout in Columbus was very good again this year. With the total number of registered voters, which is 2,994, we had 2,443 ballots cast on Tuesday, which is about 81.5% turnout, which is very good for a midterm election. In comparison to 2014, there were about 2,200 votes, or a little bit less. So there were about 250 people who registered or updated their registration on the day of the election. Overall, Pat, who's not with us tonight, said that it was a very long day, but people were very patient. There were lines pretty much all day long, including at 6:30 in the morning before the polls opened. But she reported that things went fairly smoothly. So I wanted to thank Pat and the election inspectors and her crew for doing such an outstanding job with such a huge turnout. So, and there was also an election at the library for the first time. The first official kids vote was an idea that I had kind of brought up to Megan Meyer when she was here, and she implemented this in the library. I think there was about 130 kids that showed up. They elected Elephant and Piggy to governor and lieutenant governor. Albus Dumbledore to Attorney General, Curious George is the Secretary of State, and Scrooge McDuck is the State Treasurer, and Pete the Cat is the U.S. Senator. Pikachu is our District 6 State Representative, and Dogman is the County Sheriff. So it sounds like it was well received. I got some good feedback from parents, just getting kids into the exercise of voting. So thanks to the library for doing that. That's all I had. Kim, did you want to add a few things?
Yep, Patrick gave me his report. He also would like to express his appreciation to interim city clerk Pat Gable and the election workers for their efforts this election season. This is Patrick speaking now. I understand that the election process went smoothly on Tuesday, even with a large turnout. The process for all of the early and absentee ballots went very well. One more week is scheduled for curbside leaf collection by the Public Works Department. That'd be the week of November 12th. And he also would like to thank Council President Andy Traxler, DOT Secretary Dave Ross, State Senator Scott Fitzgerald, and those businesses in TID 4 who attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the construction of the new Hall Road last week, Friday. It was a brief yet important celebration of the development progress in that area of the city. And that is the administrator's report.
All right. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah, I do. I just, I wanted to just take a moment to thank Mayor Tome, staff, Levying support liaisons that worked really hard, and we're in the trenches when we were trying to move the court to Columbus. And I think when we get the court here and we're up and running, I think it's going to be a positive impact on Columbus. And I'd also like to point, say thank you to the supporters we did have currently on the municipal court that did want to move the court to Columbus and were outvoted. So thanks to everyone. I mean, this was a lot of work and we have more work to do, but I think we're on the right track. So, thank you.
Thanks, Andy. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We stand adjourned, and we will not be returning for the committee of the whole this evening. Thank you.